Hello everyone, third update for today from me. If you have not seen first and second videos, please check those videos that might help to reach wider audience and like and leave some commentary if you can. And well, in this update, I have also a number of news about some major developments. And let's start with RIA Novosti's report, according to which Russian armed forces achieved significant progress in Volchansk direction, according to head of Akhmat Special Forces, Apti Alaudinov, and he said that Russian troops established control over the first line of high-rise apartments in Volchansk, in the northern part of Volchansk. Earlier, several channels reported about Russian control over these settlements, so-called citadel, but Russian Defense Ministry did not confirm this information, and well, today Apti Alaudinov shares with public information that these buildings, first line of high-rise apartments, are under full Russian control. And well, many military experts are predicting that Kiev regime forces will have no option but to retreat from northern parts of Volchansk city in immediate future, because Russian armed forces have direct fire control over almost all supply and support lines that Kiev regime is using to reinforce their units in northern parts of the Volchansk. But anyways, that's the information that we have at this point, that Russian armed forces established control over their first line of these high-rise apartments in the city. Also, RIA Novosti's report that Poland obligated itself to allocate 0.25% of its GDP for Ukraine for military aid of the Kiev regime. I don't know if Polish society is okay with this, but that's the decision that the Polish government made. Maybe this is because leadership of Poland knows perfectly well that they would not spend too much on Ukraine, because there will be no more Ukraine on political map in relatively near future. Maybe that's what is going on here. Although, by obligating itself that they will spend some 0.25% of GDP to arm Kiev regime, I guess Warsaw is trying to gain some political points in EU, in collective West. Maybe that's what is happening. But anyways, let's continue. TASS news agency is reporting that von der Leyen, Ursula von der Leyen, who is pretending to continue her work as head of European Commission, in his election campaign, it's a kind of sort of election campaign in EU bureaucracy, although people are not really voting for her. So who is electing this individual, man? But anyways, she is promising that EU will transform into defensive organization in next 5 years of her leadership in the EU, which is interesting statement, by the way. Talks in Europe about European armed forces, European army, European alternative to NATO. These talks are going on for decades, and maybe increased chances that Trump will be re-elected as president of US forces these bureaucrats in Europe to go back to that idea of European army, of military, to transform EU in some sort of military alliance, formally defensive alliance. But yet again, question will rise. I mean, what the hell is going on? We have a NATO and now we are creating some additional headache here. What is the reason? But of course, no one gonna say true to nobody really, especially to public. But that's the promise of Ursula Bursula, and of course she will argue that this is due to imaginary Russian threat. Although, by the way, Russian side was very clear always that Russia, Moscow has no plans to attack or to be hostile towards any NATO member state or any EU member state. Only way Russia can escalate is if provoked by opposite side. And by the way, today, press spokesman of the Russian president, Dmitry Peskov, said exactly the same, that Russia is not threat to no one in EU, to none of the EU member states. But yet again, hardly possible that any Western media outlet will pay any attention to statements from Moscow, and they will definitely will not inform public in the West about Moscow's position, because it's Western media, by the way, so-called media. All they do is propagandize and indoctrinate public as much as they can by demonizing Russia and the Russians. Anyways, if Ursula Bursula will be appointed again as the head of European Commission, and probably she will, one should expect additional spendings on military-industrial complex from the Brussels, from the EU member states, and we're gonna observe now transformation of the EU into some sort of military alliance inside the military alliance, which is the NATO. Let's see how it will work out. Also, by the way, RT is reporting about statement of Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov in regards to Wall Street Journal's journalist Gershkovich. And let me give you this information here. Moscow has irretrievable proof that American journalist Ivan Gershkovich was involved in espionage before his arrest, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has stated. He added that the case was in no way an attack on journalism. Wall Street Journal reporter Gershkovich was arrested in Yekaterinburg in March 2023 while attempting to gather classified information about military facility, according to Russia's Federal Security Service. We have irretrievable evidences that Gershkovich was engaged in espionage, Lavrov said at a press conference in New York on Wednesday during his visit to the US as a part of Russia's presidency of the UN Security Council. Lavrov noted that the Russian and American intelligence agencies are in contact regarding potential prisoner swaps under an agreement between Russian President Vladimir Putin and US President Joe Biden established before June 2021. The topic does not like haste, Lavrov said, adding that Americans probably predict periodically throw into the public space the topic does not like haste, Lavrov said, adding that Americans, US officials, he meant, I guess, Americans periodically throw it into the public space, which does not help. Despite this, he emphasized that the two countries are in contact on the matter and that this whole thing is no attack on journalism. Gershkovich was formally charged in Russian court last month. He is accused of acting on behalf of foreign intelligence when he attempted to collect classified information about Uralvagon Zavod, a major Russian tank and armored vehicle manufacturer in Yekaterinburg. Both the Wall Street Journal and Gershkovich have denied the allegations, claiming he is being held unlawfully. Well, this is a response from Lavrov, and by the way, we all understand that there is no way Lavrov, this heavyweight in our diplomatic field, will say anything like we have irrefutable evidences that Gershkovich was engaged in espionage without having factual proof, irrefutable proof, which is probably video and audio, right? So, well, I have no doubt, I have no reason to doubt statements from Russian officials, because I mean, this level of certainty in the statements clearly indicates that Russian side has all the necessary proofs, and this case has clearly nothing to do with the journalism of Gershkovich, because he was engaged in espionage, and his court case is still in process, I believe, and once Russian and U.S. Intelligence services will finalize their negotiations, I guess Gershkovich will be exchanged. There will be some exchange of assets of the secret services, or some sort of exchange, and Gershkovich will return to US, and well, he can continue his work as a spy or as a so-called journalist. It's up to him then. Anyways, let's continue. Zglad newspaper is reporting that the leader of Senate Democrats in US, Chuck Schumer, stated that President of the US, Joe Biden, have to refuse to continue his campaign for re-election, and he is not alone. He is not alone. I said quite a while ago, isn't it, that some sort of administrative coup d'etat is taking place in establishment of the Democrats, and there is a serious attempt to remove Biden from this presidential campaign, and maybe even from the office before presidential election will take place. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they will force this establishment, Democrats establishment will force Biden to resign before elections, before November, so that Kamala Harris will take formally charge, and the Democrats will have more time to finalize with whom they're gonna try to defeat Trump. My prediction is Michelle Obama, wife of former US President Barack Obama, but yet again, let's see. RT is also reporting that US Republicans subpoena Secret Service director. So Republican run House Oversight Committee has issued a subpoena compelling Secret Service Director Kimberly Chittle to testify on Capitol Hill about her agency's total failure to prevent their attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. So she will have to answer some top questions. It is strange, by the way, I mean, or at least it seems to me that this person, head of US Secret Service, still didn't resign. I mean, this is unbelievable. Even if she is confident that Secret Service did everything okay, everything right, there was still failure on part of Secret Service, because there was clearly assassination attempt of the Trump. So that's a way bigger enough reason to resign, to save the face for the Secret Services. But for whatever reason, she's not resigning, man. This is crazy. If this kind of stuff happened in Russia, by the way, head of Secret Service will not just resign. Probably investigation will be conducted straight away, and some people may lose not just jobs but freedom also, because this is what way Secret Service was operating was on the borderline with criminal irresponsibility or criminal unprofessionalism. You know. So, and then in any other country also, I guess, but in US, for whatever reason, this person still maintains her position as a head of Secret Service, which is, well, I don't know, crazy. But US in general is undergoing some very strange transformations. US is in a very strange place right now, and for quite a while, and therefore. Probably nothing should surprise us anymore in regards to this failed empire. But anyways, let's continue. TASS news agencies are reporting failing empire, by the way. It's not yet failed completely, but US as empire clearly is failing, and that's a good thing for US citizens, I guess, because once this process will finalize, will finish, maybe US will go back to its roots of republic. And if, in that case, of course, it will be immensely beneficial for US citizens. Because US should be republic, not the empire. But anyways, let's continue. TASS news agency is reporting that US intelligence community, not excluding possibility that there will be more attacks on Trump, more attempts to assassinate Trump, and this information was published by Politico, and this media outlet is insisting that U.S. administration has information from different sources that there is a threat to the Trump from Tehran, from Iran. And this is all false fake news, by the way. That's my comment on this. This is absolutely fake news in regards to outside players, especially Iran. We clearly observing there was on CNN similar story. On CNN, similar story was running on other media outlets, and now Politico is getting involved in this. And you know what? In my personal opinion, this is done to divert attention of the public for unbelievable failures on part of Secret Service and from internal situation in Ukraine, when level of hatred between these two camps, Democrats and the Republicans, are so tense that, by the way, people on left side, on side of Democrats, even public figures, by the way, well known in US, bloggers, journalists, and so on, are openly saying that they feel no sorry or empathy to Trump or to people that were killed and injured during this assault on Trump, and they are not ashamed to say so on air. That's the level of hatred. I mean, can you imagine that, man? That they have no empathy to opposite side at all, none of it. And to divert public's attention, probably, that's why they come up now, so-called elites in US come up now with this nonsensical propaganda that threats towards Biden comes from outside, not from inside, not from this hate speech of the Democrats, not because of the hate propaganda, hateful propaganda of this so-called media in US towards Trump and Republicans that were demonized for years and years, by the way. Demonized. So they have nothing to do with it. It's Iran, it's some other parties worldwide, but don't blame us because, I mean, we are so nice people. I mean, that's the attempt on part of Democrats and their propaganda outlets. That's why these publications are popping up now so often, that Iran is posing threat. If Iran wanted to take out Trump, they will probably do it like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, straight after previous presidential elections. But now, while it is 100%, almost 100% guaranteed that Trump is going to be president of US, now why should now Iran even think about taking any actions against Trump personally? Just nonsensical. But yet again, Western ruling class, US so-called elites, political elites, they get used to spread this nonsensical news, nonsensical stories, because they have immense control over their public opinions, because they control media. After all, it was this Democrat establishment and the deep state that ran with that story of Russiagate, isn't it? And after so many years, where is there single evidence that Trump was a Russian asset or Russian general or spy general? Any evidences that Trump collaborated with the Russian secret services in any way, shape, or form? No, none of it. And FBI's investigation and every other investigation that was conducted, they all say that there is no evidences. It's a pure propaganda, because it was pure propaganda generated by this intelligence community of the US, deep state, and the Democrat establishment under leadership of Clinton clans. Right? So they used to, these people in elites, in political elites of US, they used to run with these crazy stories, unchallenged. And that's why they are using same tactics now, to divert public's attention. They are coming up with this crazy story that Iran is, planning to do something. And unfortunately, by the way, Iran is demonized so much so by propaganda, Western propaganda, that Western public is buying this crap. Any crap about Iran. People in the West, many people are willing to believe anything, any nonsense that they hear from so-called media or politicians about Iran. When in reality, vast majority of those media outlets, personnel of those media outlets, vast majority of these public figures in West, politicians that are talking about Iran, they have no idea about Iran. They know nothing about Iran, by the way. Nothing, literally nothing. And majority of them probably would not be able to give you name of the capital of Iran, or find Iran on a political map. And I'm not exaggerating. Anyways, let's continue, man. Let's continue. TASS News Agency's report that, dear friends, as you know, Western ruling class initiated this sanction war against Russia, isn't it? And time to time, Russia is responding, and Russia is taking some retaliatory steps. And for example, some 500 U.S. citizens are under Russian sanctions. Maybe more. And this is all retaliatory steps from Moscow. And among sanctioned personnel, among sanctioned US citizens, there is one person that is that is making headlines nowadays. And of course, I'm talking about Senator from Ohio, James or JD Vance, running mate of the Trump in this presidential elections. And Maria Zakharova, official representative of Russian Foreign Ministry, was asked if Moscow has any plans to remove this JD Vance from sanctions list, because among these sanctions are also ban to enter Russia, and it is highly likely that this JD Vance will be vice president of US at some point in the future. And Maria Zakharova said that no, Moscow has no plans to remove anybody from sanctions list, and there is no decisions, separate decisions about Vance. So there is no plans now. I can understand that. Probably for many people, this decision of Trump to choose JD Vance or James Vance as his running mate come as a surprise. But if Trump Vance tandem will win these elections, then I guess Moscow will have to change its attitude, probably because yet again, I saw several interviews of Vance, and in none of those interviews he demonstrated himself as some sort of Russophobe or Russia hater. His position in regards to Ukrainian conflict was also, I mean, much more adequate than position of many other representatives of the U.S. political class, and therefore maybe Moscow will change its approach and Vance will be removed from the sanctions list. Maybe, but of course I cannot be sure about it. Let's see. Let's wait and see. But well, for some people at least, in the US, it may come as a surprise that JD Vance is sanctioned in Russia. Anyways, let's continue. TASS news agency is reporting that President of Russian Federation had a phone conversation with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud, and two leaders discussed during this phone conversation cooperation in political sphere, economical sphere, financial sphere, and of course in energy sphere. OPEC plus was a topic of conversation, and I think BRICS also, because after all, Saudi Arabia is applied to become a member of the BRICS. Saudi Arabia was invited basically into BRICS, and right now seems like Saudi Arabia is with one foot in the BRICS but not with both feet. So officially Saudi Arabia not yet member of the BRICS, and same goes for United Arab Emirates. And I guess in the conversations between Russian leadership and Saudi leadership, between Saudi leadership and the Chinese or Indian leadership, this topic probably are also discussed. I mean, what is the final decision of the Riyadh? I mean, are they joining BRICS or not? Because current situation is quite confusing, really. So probably yes, that topic, BRICS topic, was also discussed, and well, maybe Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia had additional reason to talk to Russian president, because recently, just a couple of days ago, Biden, during his televised interview, said that Saudis are asking him help in nuclear technology field, civilian nuclear energy field, and in return, and for some security guarantees, and in return they are promising to recognize Israel and establish diplomatic relationships and normalize relationships, basically. And there may be these statements from Biden came as a somewhat or little bit surprised for BRICS leaders, BRICS member states, because BRICS can guarantee security of Saudi Arabia. US cannot, and US will not. And therefore maybe yes, because of this interview of Biden and revelation that Saudis are asking for security guarantees and for some nuclear technologies, maybe that's why Saudi prince wanted to have a conversation with Putin also, in addition to say that maybe Biden was out of his mind and he was just lying or something, because BRICS definitely can provide their security guarantees for Saudi Arabia, and their BRICS definitely can provide Saudi Arabia with civilian nuclear technologies. I mean, Russia is the leading country when it comes to building nuclear power stations in this world, right? So interesting episode. Of course, we're not gonna know details about what exactly nuances was discussed between two leaders, but I guess all these topics were touched. that I mentioned. Also, by the way, RT is reporting that EU Parliament blocks Russian asset stealing plan. The European Parliament has endorsed an EU plan to seize the profits generated by Russia's frozen sovereign assets and to use them to provide military aid to Ukraine. Brussels recently agreed to send some of the interests generated by the funds to Kiev after months of deliberation and legal concerns. In its first resolution, adopted since the EU's parliamentary election last month, the bloc's lawmaking body pledged to support Ukraine for as long as it takes until victory. So these delusional idiots that call themselves EU officials, well, they are shameless people, by the way. Vast majority of them. I know in European Parliament there are some independents, some decent people. I want to believe in this, anyway, that there are some decent people also there. But majority is clearly some despicable individuals, and they're gonna steal, of course. They're gonna support stealing of the Russian assets. And Brussels top bureaucrats, Ursula Borrell, Michel, and the rest of them, they were also clear that they're gonna steal Russian assets, and they will. And they will, despite all the warnings from even EU's central bank and EU's professionals in financial sector not to do this, because it will harm immensely, EU's and Western economies and the financial and banking system. But those people, they see these assets, they want to steal it. They cannot help themselves. It is what it is, man, and therefore, this information don't really comes as some sort of surprise, obviously. RT is also reporting that Moscow temporarily nationalizes packaging giants' assets. Russia has temporarily nationalized their assets of metal packaging manufacturer Silgan Holdings Austria, according to their decree signed by Russian President Vladimir Putin on Thursday last week. The Russian assets of the company have been transferred under state supervision, and this is done, by the way, because of the Western sanctions. Because the number of companies, Western companies that had that were active on Russian market, they are afraid to continue their work, and therefore many manufacturing plants start shutting down. They stop working, and of course Russia cannot have this nonsense, and therefore these businesses are allowed to sell their assets in Russia under profitable for Russia conditions, obviously. How else? And if they don't want to sell their assets, then that's what is going to happen. Moscow will temporarily nationalize assets of the Western companies, because and manufacturing plants or services businesses will continue to work, basically. And once situation with sanctions will get resolved, and once these companies will make decision to return to Russian market and start operating again, I guess they will be able to return control over this temporarily nationalize their assets. That's why they are temporarily nationalized, not forever. So this is the solution that Moscow come up with in regards to companies that are afraid to continue their work in Russia, and this is right approach, I believe. This is right approach. They are not taking those assets from their lawful owners. Russia is just takes in charge of these companies, so that people will continue to work, receive wages, economy would not be harmed by absence of certain businesses on the market, while whenever rightful owners of these businesses will man up and decide to come back to Russian market, they will have opportunity to receive control over their assets without any issues. RT is also reporting that Russia is about to launch a Starlink style internet network, according to media reports. So Russia is planning to simplify satellite access to high-speed internet for users on the country's extensive public transport network, the Izvestia newspaper reported on Tuesday, citing official documents. Access will reportedly be provided by operators of a new satellite system in a non-geostationary orbit, allowing private users or transport companies to purchase transmitter receivers that will connect them to the internet after installing it in a car, in a plane, or train carriage. In May, Russian Railways signed a cooperation agreement on the application of satellite technologies with the Russian space company Bureau 1440. Under the deal, the parties will develop digital services based on low-orbit satellites and create popular IT solutions for industry. So yes, good news. Russia is building a Starlink type of network. I reported about it some time ago when there was a successful test of the satellites of exactly this Bureau 1440 company. And well, let's see how long development of this network will take place, but work is on the way, and hopefully in upcoming years, in upcoming several years, Russia will also have a Starlink type of network. RT is also reporting that President of Russian Federation Putin outlines new digital currency policy. Well, interesting. Russia is moving fast in direction of adopting all these digital technologies, including in terms of currency. So the newly launched digital ruble should be fully incorporated into the Russian economy now that the test phase of its adoption is drawing to a close. President Vladimir Putin announced on Wednesday. Speaking at the government meeting on economic issues, Putin said that the pilot launch of the electronic currency had proved success and that the project is ready for wider implementation. The pilot launch of the digital ruble platform has shown its efficiency and their functionality, and now we need to take the next step, namely to move towards a wider full-scale implementation of the digital ruble in the economy, in business activities, and in the field of finance, the Russian president suggested. He added that he plans to discuss the steps intended to speed up this process with the regulators. Well, this is interesting, by the way. This is interesting. I know many people have very much skepticism towards digital currencies, but well, Russia is clearly moving towards development of not just development of the digital currency, which is already created, but Russia is moving towards full-scale implementation of the digital currency in the country's life, in the public life, and well, maybe this is the way forward, really, to bypass Western financial and the banking system, digital currencies, cryptocurrencies, and so on. I don't know. I'm definitely not an expert in the cryptocurrencies or digital currencies. They are not even same as far as I understand. I mean, Russian digital ruble is not a cryptocurrency. It's just it's the same ruble as an ordinary ruble, as far as I understand. I need to learn some more about this topic, but in general, movement towards digital currencies is clearly priority here in Russia, and therefore I think this may be seen by Moscow as a way to bypass all the barriers that Western ruling class is creating by weaponizing Western financial and the banking system. So I will not be surprised at all if sometime in the future BRICS will come up with BRICS digital currency, and that digital currency becomes world's reserve currency, alternative to the dollar, euro, pound, Swiss franc, and so on. Maybe. Let's see, time will tell, isn't it? Also interesting news from Kommersant newspaper that Vice Prime Minister of Russia, Alexander Novak, stated that despite the Western sanctions against Russia, against Russian SPG projects, all SPG projects are in development, and there are no delays. No delays on any of them. It seems like Russian government expects all these SPG projects to be finalized, to be finished in according to time frame of the work, which is a good news, by the way, which is a good news because Washington, especially Washington, by the way, is very keen, but Western ruling class in general, they are very keen to distract this Russian SPG projects because they are afraid of competence. They are afraid of competitiveness of this Russian energy projects, or even competence of Russian energy projects. Yes, that may also be said. So yes, good news from Novak. It's good to know that despite Western sanctions, Russian SPG projects are developing according to graphic. And finally, I will share with you this news, dear friends, from Vzglyad newspaper about fate of International Space Station. Let me translate this news also, so that I will give you more precisely this technological terminology. So let's go through this news. It will take more than a year before SpaceX ship finally deorbits the International Space Station in 2030 and destroys it in Earth's atmosphere. NASA's ISS program manager Dana Weigel said in a video conference on the station's deorbit plan. As Weigel said, the SpaceX spacecraft will enter the ISS, will force basically move ISS into the Earth's atmosphere only 12 to 18 months after the station descends from the normal orbit, while the crew will remain on board as long as possible to maintain the station and the station's functionality, Interfax reports. According to Weigel, the plan is for astronauts to leave the station about 6 months before the final convergence, when ISS orbit will decrease to an altitude of about 220 kilometers. NASA selected SpaceX space tag to deorbit the ISS last month, saying it would give the company up to 843 million to develop this space tag. So yes, by the way, it seems like days of ISS, International Space Station, are numbered, and NASA and Roscosmos, as a part of this project, they know exact date probably at this point when ISS will finally start burning into the Earth's atmosphere, and whatever will be left will sink in middle of Pacific somewhere. And well, this is also seems like good business for SpaceX, because they will receive 843 million to develop this space tag. Interesting, isn't it? Interesting indeed. So yes, and by the way, I remind you, if I may, that after International Space Station will be deorbited, and even before that, Russia will most likely launch its own space station and work on this project. Russian space station is already underway. So Russia will maintain its presence into the Earth's orbit, into space. And this is it for now. Hopefully you will find this update informative, interesting, and useful. And if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything. As I said there many times, likes and comments are only way we can somehow tackle YouTube's immensely aggressive algorithm and reach a wider audience. And for very same reason, if you can, please share information about my channel with your friends in real life or on internet, on the platforms that you are actively using. And finally, if you think this channel is interesting, useful, informative, and deserves to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support my work with donations through PayPal, Boosty, or with cryptocurrencies, or by the way, by subscribing to my Patreon page, on which I have extra content on regular basis, news updates, reaction videos, non-political content, Streets of Moscow, for example, programs on regular basis. Yes, and yes, Patreon is very important, of course, because it does gives me understanding with what funds I can work with on monthly basis. So yes, I will be immensely grateful for any support, of course, and subscription on Patreon, of course, also. Although I mean, by the way, paid subscription, number of free subscribers increasing quite regularly, but unfortunately, situation is very different when it comes to Patreons or paid subscribers that are financially supporting this project and my work. So hopefully things will change and more people will become Patreons of this project. All the links, by the way, under this video in description box and in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care. And dear friends, sorry, before I go, in couple of hours time I will upload on my Patreon page extra content from Night Moscow, from one of their embankments of the Moscow River. Hopefully Patreon community will find this video interesting, and I will publish that video on Boosty also. And if you for whatever reason don't like Patreon, you can subscribe to my Boosty page, and you will have access to this extra content also. This is it for now. Thank you very much for your attention and support. Have a great day and take care.